Coming off the the fall season, having the ability to play all these high-end dual matches and tournaments.
Yep.
How do you think that sort of prepared your players for the spring? Now you get a little break, but you've seen them compete at a pretty high level already.
Sure. College tennis is interesting because we have a fall season and a spring season, so it's a little longer than some of the other collegiate sports, and that really goes back to how pro tennis and junior tennis is operated. As a junior, all these players basically play year-round, and when you get to the pro level, there's not a season like you would find in baseball, football, basketball, something like that. So the pro athletes compete all year round. So in collegiate tennis, we have a fall season, which is tournament based. And really what we try to do as coaches there is we look at that as our developmental period. So we identify areas that players need to work on individually. We have incoming freshmen that we have to get to know. We're looking and experimenting with doubles pairings. We're trying to allow players to feel more comfortable with coaching on the court, which they haven't experienced in the juniors and you don't see in the pros, so that's new. We're allowing the individuals to kind of become more comfortable with the team environment. Tennis is basically an individual sport, and the collegiate aspect of that is team-based. So it's the first time that they're competing in that format. And then we're really just kind of getting them ready to make a transition into the dual season. So the second part of this, starting in January, we compete in the ACC. It is, if not the toughest, it's the deepest tennis conference in the country. And these players are going to compete at a very high level, and it's extremely important that they're not only prepared on the court, but they're prepared from a time management standpoint. So we help them, get ready for that part of the season.
What have been some of your observations from the fall season, both individually and as a team, and how have you sort of seen some different players grow in that time?
Yeah. So observations from the fall season, we have a couple. Number one, we have a very close team. We have a great team dynamic. We have 12 players this year. They all get along extremely well. They support each other. That's the biggest observation that we have. The second part of it is we have some players that are new to the team, and we have to get them accustomed to college tennis. We have some players that have come from clay court environments, which is a little slower paced, a little different point construction, so they need to adapt to hard court tennis, which is American collegiate tennis. And we need to have them adapt into the doubles format. A lot of these players have not played a large amount of doubles in their junior career, so this is something that they're adapting to here at BC. We help with that transition as well. I think also what we've been able to do is identify areas that players need to work on, and they're going to carry that into the next few months and hopefully make some improvements or changes before we get into January. So those are our basic observations from the fall.
The expansion of the roster to 12 players, what has that allowed you to do, and then how do you think that's going to be a benefit with depth and with injuries and all that?
Yeah, so there's a couple different advantages. You mentioned a few of those. Last year we went from 8 players on our roster to 10, which I think is a really good number to have. This year it expanded to 12, and that really wasn't by design. We had a transfer come in, and then we had a really valuable walk-on at the last minute. But what we see as an advantage to this is that, again, that team dynamic is strong. So in a sport that is a small team compared to like maybe a football team that has a lot of players, there's a little bit more team support from their peers. There's practice diversity, which I think is huge. So you have more people, more styles of play to compete against in a practice environment. And then we have depth. So if we have somebody that's injured or ill, we still have a strong lineup that we can plug in and still be competitive even in the ACC. That hurt us a couple years ago. 3 years ago against Harvard, we had a number of players that were sick, and we ended up losing that match, and that's why we went from 8 to 10. But again, 12, it's a little harder to manage, but there's definitely some benefits to that.
What have you seen from Jackie Urbanati in terms of her leadership and stepping into the captain's role this year?
Right. So I've watched Jackie all 3 years that she's been here, and as a coach, it's really satisfying to watch her evolve. When she came in, she was just getting accustomed to college in general, getting accustomed to the level of play. And each year I've watched her mature and get a little stronger as a person, a little bit more assertive. And she naturally took over the leadership role as captain this year. And so coming through that pathway, she's better equipped to help mentor some of the younger players. And it's really been very satisfying for me to watch her take some of the younger players under her wing and guide them on the same path that she's already gone through. So, and then as a tennis player, she's gotten a lot better. I mean, she started out struggling a little bit in the transition, the second year a little bit better. Last year she was phenomenal, and she's really poised to have a great year this year. And she's duplicated that off the court as a student. I think she's become better organized, you know, more mature. She's learned how to study, learned how to manage her time between tennis and college, and just really a nice young lady to have as captain on our team.
You heard what some of the players said about their goals for the season. You know, for you and Nigel, what are you looking at for the spring in terms of what this team can accomplish?
Yep. So look, on paper, I think we have one of the best teams that we've had. Now we still have to execute as we go into the spring. I think we've got a couple goals. Number one, we want to be one of the top 3 teams in the Northeast region. We definitely want to get to the NCAAs, which will be the first year in 22 years that this program has achieved that. That is not easy to do in the ACC, because not only do you have to have an ITA ranking that allows you to go, but you have to win 50% of your matches. So when you're competing in the ACC, the deepest and probably toughest tennis conference in the country, you have to be successful in that dual match season in order to be eligible for the NCAAs. So that is definitely our goal. We've worked hard to recruit, we've worked hard to develop players to prepare us for that. And again, I think we need just to go out and execute that this season. The players are ready. On top of that, I think we really would like to have a few of the players have individual results that allow them to go to, you know, the NCAA, either singles tournament or doubles tournament. Jackie Urbanati and Kylie Wilcox have definitely kind of positioned themselves in a doubles capacity to accomplish that. And I think we've got 1 or 2 singles players, maybe 3, that can also achieve that, just kind of depending how things fall together, you know, through the dual match season.
Finally, just wanted to ask about the 2 big time, new players on the team, Yufei
Right.
and Laura. Yufei obviously a transfer, but what have you seen from them so far, and how do you think they can add to the team dynamic?
Yep. So tennis is really interesting. The scoring format. There's 6 singles matches and 3 doubles matches. So the 2 out of 3 doubles matches wins a team point, and then every singles match is 1 team point. So Yufei and Laura are definitely going to be at the top half of the roster, but their wins don't count any more than the players below them. But what we've seen is Yufei has come in, she's adapted very well to this team. So that was kind of one of the things we were watching for, is how she interacted and integrated with her teammates. She's done a phenomenal job with that. I've watched her play a couple really solid matches out at the All-Americans and then last weekend at LSU. I think what I'm looking from her is maybe a little bit more stable match competition where she stays focused and energized through the entire match versus a couple ups and downs. And then I've learned, and I think she's learned, how her and I can interact on court a little bit more effectively during the coaching phase of the match. Laura Lopez, I think, is adjusting to coming from Spain to the United States. That's one. She's adjusting from a clay court environment to a hard court environment, so that's 2. And she started to make that transition pretty well. I watched her play a really nice match at Yale, and I think that is foreshadowing to things to come. But the other thing I'm going to look to her for is a little bit more on-court intensity during the match, like a competitive spirit that's ramped up. And I think this is her just adjusting from playing an individual sport, mostly as a junior, to the team format of college tennis. And I know she'll get there, but we're looking for big things from both Yufei and Laura, as well as everybody else. I mean, again, every point on this team counts. And what I've told the players in the past is all 12 players on the roster have to contribute, because if we only have 11, we are not going to achieve our goals. It's going to take all 12 of these ladies to get us to where we want to be.